Hello, Alva. Welcome to a Daily Bible Bite. We're in Genesis chapter 18, and we're reading the second half of the story there, and then it will be wonderful. So, picking up from Sarah laughed, verse 16 of chapter 18 of Genesis says this: Then the men set out from there, and they looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them as they set on their way. Seeing that Abraham, the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have chosen him that he may command his children, and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him." Then the Lord said, "Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me, and if not, I will know." And verse 22 continues, "So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, 'Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not spare it for 50 righteous who are with it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked do. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is right?' And the Lord said, 'If I find in Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake.' Abraham answered and said, 'Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? And he said, 'I will not destroy it if I find 45 there.' And again he spoke to him and said, 'Suppose 40 are there.' And he answered, 'For the sake of 40, I will not do it.' And then he said, 'Let not the Lord be angry, and I'll speak. Suppose 30 are there.' And he answered, 'I will not do it if I find 30 there.' And he said, 'Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there.' And he answered, 'For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it.' And then he said, 'Let not the Lord be angry. I'll speak again but this once. Suppose 10 are found there.' And he answered, 'For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it.' And the Lord went on his way, and when he had finished speaking to Abraham, Abraham returned to his place." That's the end of chapter 18. Chapter 19 continues. The 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and bowed himself with his face to the earth, and said, 'My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house, and spend the night, and wash your feet. And then you may rise up early and go on your way.' And they said, 'No, we'll spend the night in the town square.' But he pressed them strongly, so that they turned aside and entered his house, and he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate." Verse 4 says, "But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people, to the last man, surrounded the house. And they called Lot, 'Where are these men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them.' And Lot went out to the men in the entrance and shut the door after him, and said, 'I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known any man. Let me bring them out to you, to do as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof.' But they said, 'Stand back.' And they said, 'This fellow came to sojourn, and he's become a judge? Now we'll deal worse with you than with them.' And they pressed hard against the man Lot, and they drew near to break the door down. But the men inside reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the entrance to the house, both small and great, so that they wore themselves out groping for the door. Then the men said to Lot, "Have you anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city, bring them out of this place. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, "Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But he seemed to his son-in-laws to be jesting. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand. And the Lord being merciful to them, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And as they brought them out, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away." And Lot said to them, "Oh, no, my lords. Behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. Behold, this city is near enough to flee to, and it's a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved." And he said to him, "Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing until you arrive there." Therefore the name of this city is called Zoar. And verse 23 continues, Then the sun had risen on the earth, and Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. Verse 26 says, "But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abram went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord, and he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land in the valley, and he looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a furnace." And it was that when God destroyed the cities of the valley, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, that when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. Verse 30 continues the same story. Now Lot went up out of Zoar and lived in the hills with his daughters, for he was afraid to live in Zoar. And so he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there's not a man on earth to come into us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve our offspring from our father." So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose. The next day the firstborn said to the younger, "Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine again tonight. Then you also go in and lie with him, that we may preserve offspring from our father." So they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son and called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ammi, and he is the father of the Ammonites to this day. Huge people who will be enemies of Israel all the days of their existence. Then chapter 20 is a short chapter in Genesis. From there, Abraham journeyed toward the territory of the Negeb and lived between Kadesh and Shur. And he journeyed in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, she is my sister. Again. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, went and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, you are a dead man because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. Now Abimelech had not approached her. So he said, Lord, will you kill innocent people? Did he not himself say to me, she is my sister? And she herself says, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands, I have done this. And then God said to him in a dream, yes, I know that you have done this in the integrity of your heart, and it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, so that he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not return her, know that you will surely die, you and all who are yours. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called his servants and told them all these things, and the men were very much afraid. And then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, what have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You've done things to me that ought not be done. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what did you see that you did this thing? And Abraham said, I did it because I thought, there is no fear of God at all in this place, and they'll kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, this is the kindness you must do to me, that every place to which I come say of me, he is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and cows and oxen and male servants and female servants and gave them to Abraham and returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, behold, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you. And to Sarah he said, behold, I've given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It's a sign of your innocence in the eyes of all who are with me, and before everyone you are vindicated. And then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and also healed his wife and female slaves, for they bore children. For the Lord had closed the wombs of all the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. And that's the end of our reading from the Old Testament today. And then in Matthew, we're reading chapter 8 this morning. So this is the bit that comes, it's after the Sermon on the Mount, I believe. Chapter 8. When he came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him, Jesus. And behold, a leper came to him and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to a priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a proof to them. When he entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, appealing to him, Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home. He's suffering terribly. And he said to him, I will come and heal him. But the centurion replied, Lord, I am not worthy to have you even under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I too am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes. And to set my servant do this, and he does it. And so when Jesus heard this, he marveled. And he said to those who followed him, truly I tell you, no one in Israel have I found such faith in. I tell you, many will come from east and west and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And to the centurion, Jesus said, Go, let it be done for you as you have believed. And the servant was healed at that very moment. Then verse 14 of chapter 8 in Matthew says, and when Jesus entered Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law lying sick with a fever, and he touched her hand, and the fever left her. And she rose and began to serve him. That evening they brought to him many who were oppressed by demons, and he cast out spirits, and with a word healed those who were sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. He took our illnesses and bore our diseases. Verse 18. Now, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And a scribe came up and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Another of the disciples said to him, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. And Jesus said to him, Follow me and leave the dead to bury their dead. Then a story goes, when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was fast asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, Save us, Lord, we're perishing. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, O you of little faith? Then he rose, and he rebuked the wind and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, What sort of man is this, that the wind and sea obey him? And when he came to the other side of the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men met him coming out of the tombs, so fierce that no one could pass that way. And behold, they cried out, What have you to do with us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? Now, a herd of many pigs was feeding at some distance from there. And the demons begged him, saying, If thou cast us out and send us away into the pigs. If thou cast us out, send us away into the pigs. And he said to them, Go. And so they came out and went into the pigs. And behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the waters. Now the herdsmen fled, and going into the city, they told everything, especially what had happened to the demon-possessed men. And behold, all the city came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they begged him to leave their region. And that's the end of chapter 8. Great things happening. I hope things are happening in your life. Just getting through the Bible in small bites. God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.